Hey, welcome everyone in this new video tutorial about Diablo-like dungeon generator. In this video we're going to build the logic that consumes the generic tile when actually spawning forced tile like 3 and 4 ways that needs to generate extra generic tiles around them, and currently the level generator is not taking into account these extra generated tile, and we want to take that into account, as explained in the previous video. So we're just going to go in our spawn tile, in our calculate tile layout function. We're going to go in our generate tile layout function, and we're just going to look at our for loop. And for now we're just saying we loop an amount of time equals to the number of tile amounts we get. And we just need to say that instead of looping through that, we're going to manually create a loop that decrements the tile amount and consume it. But we actually need the index in here. So it's gonna work. So we're not going to loop through that. We're actually going to build the logic apart for now, in order not to break anything. If I'm hitting play, everything is still working correctly, if I'm not mistaken. So if I'm saying I'm incrementing the tile amount, that's the first thing I want to do. Then I want to compare. Actually, we'll need a temporary variable that stores the amount of tiles we created. So I want to duplicate the corridor spawned, and I want to call that tiles spawned. And I actually want to increment that variable. And I also want to reset that variable once I get there. When I reset the dungeon, I want to hit F5. And then I want to go back to our generate tile layout function, and I want to say is the amount of tiles spawned equal, or I mean superior, greater than or equal to tile amounts. No, is it inferior to? If so, we want to keep looping through the tiles. So I think we can just say we want to grab the tiles spawned. We want to control drag the wires connected to the index of the for loop. We want to drag what was in the body, and we want to say it's going like this. And then what do we want to do? Whenever we were hitting an end execution flow, we were actually relooping through that. So this is actually, we could just say whenever we were ending, we just regenerate the tile layout, and this will work. But this is quite strange to do it this way. It is quite strange to do it this way, especially since this won't work properly, because whenever we rerun the function, it's actually resetting the current variables we're using in the function, and that's not what we want. That's actually not what we want. So we might be... what can we do about that? Because we can just say something like this, but this will be kind of messy. We can do that like this for now, and this will show us at least if it works. So whenever we actually stop the execution flow in our previous loop, what do we want to do? We actually want to reloop through. We're manually creating a loop in here. So we consume the tiles spawn, and whenever, if we still have tile to spawn, we respawn them. So now we want to go to our create four-way function, and we want to say, and before spawning the four-way, we want to say, actually before doing any calculation, we want to say, is the amount of tile spawned, is our metric tile amount minus tile spawn, is this greater than 4? This is the amount of tiles we're going to create. I mean, it is greater than 4. If yes, we create the four-way. If not, we throw a debug error that says we do not have enough remaining tiles to spawn to add a forced four-way. Like this. And it's going to return fail. I mean success false. And we're going to see if that works by hitting compile and adding a four-way to spawn. If I'm not mistaken, I removed it. So if I'm adding a force tile at 10%, that's a four-way, and we actually have 2 tile amount. And if I'm hitting play, it's going to say the dungeon is too short for the minimum amount of steps to start. So that's good. I'm going to say I have 1 minimum steps to start. I'm going to hit play. And it's not throwing any errors. So if I'm saying I want a forced tile error margin of 100, and if I'm hitting play, we do not have enough remaining tile to spawn to add a forced four-way. And it's not resetting the number of times. Yep. So we need to reset our error log when we actually end the generation. So if I'm going in our end generation function, so we have a function that says reroll dungeon, reset level, and this is actually 2 things in one. So if I'm going in there, this is actually about deleting the level we spawned, whereas this is about, these are about one layout. So we are just going to grab that. This is going to be called reset level. So this is the proper naming convention we want. But we're going to collapse that to a function, and this is going to be called reset layout. This is going to be in our system folder as well. And whenever what do we want to do? On end generation, we want to go back to our end generation. We actually cleared our current rerolls amounts in here. We want to delete that. We want to paste that in our reset level function, because we don't want to reset that when we reset the layout, because this is keeping track of how many times we actually reset the layout. So on end generation, we're displaying the error report. And what do we do? What else do we do? So I want to think about that. When we generate the level, we reset the level. When we calculate the layout, so this is wrong, I think. When we generate the level, we reset the level. Reroll dungeon, generate level. So I think I know what I want to do. I think I want to collapse that to a function. I want to call that generate layout. I want to put that in our system folder. So when I generate the level, I reset the level, then I generate the layout. When I generate the layout, the first thing I'm doing is resetting the layout. Then I'm calculating the layout, so that's quite strange actually. I could have put that in here in this function, but that's good. So I'm generating the layout, I'm resetting it, I'm calculating it, and I'm re-rolling it. And this should not call generate level, this should call generate layout. So this is rerunning this, so I'm resetting the layout, calculating it, etc., etc. So I actually want to reset the error report whenever I reset the level. So error log, I want to clear that. I want to hit control F1, compile, play. So whenever I generate the layout, it's giving me an error report that says I do not have enough remaining tile to spawn a forced four-way. And if I'm saying I have 4 remaining connections, it will say the same thing, I believe. Yeah, because I don't want to mess up with the actually. So what I changed was the reference, one of our reference variable, and I do not want to be able to modify these variables. So I will just make sure to check advanced display for each of these variable, and this will make sure I won't be modifying them anymore, because when I do this, the variable are being hidden in a drop-down menu, and I won't be opening that drop-down menu by mistake. I'm sure I won't. So I will just say that for each of these variables, I don't want to modify them. And then if I'm going back to our class defaults, now I'm not having them exposed, and I can just look at our metrics folder. And what do I want to modify in here? I want to say I have 4 tiles, and I think it's still going to tell me it cannot add. Yep, it tried 3 times to add a 4-way, but it couldn't. So if I'm saying I have 5 tiles, it should add it. So still nuts. So it needs a minimum of 6 tiles to spawn the 4-way. But we realize we have more tiles than 6 in this dungeon. That's because I forgot to actually decrease, to consume the number of tiles when generating the 4-way. We're checking if we have enough tile amount remaining to spawn the 4-way, but we forgot to actually spend the money, spend the number of tiles when creating the 4-way. So we're going to say, excuse me, we're going to say we have a tile amount of, actually we do not want to decrement tile amount, we want to decrement tile spawned. And we want to say, we don't want to increment, we want to increment that by 4 because we spawned, because we spawned 4 tiles in here. So if I'm hitting compile, play, we should have, yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. We actually have 4 tiles, whereas I wanted 6 of them. So there's something wrong in here. What's wrong in here? So if I'm going back to our generate level, generate layout, calculate layout, generate tile layout, we're actually checking if tile spawn is greater than or equal to that. No, we want to check if it's greater than or equal to, like that. So we are arriving here. We're saying this is the first tile we are spawning. Is 1 greater than or equal to 1 if I'm specifying one tile amount? Yes. So we are creating it. Then I'm incrementing it. So I think that's the four-way that's messing the calculation. So if I'm removing the four-way and I'm checking, do we have 6 tile? 1, 2, 3. So I'm just have to check that. So we have 6 tile. So if I'm adding back our four-way, what does it do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 tiles. In here, we always have 5 tiles. So I think it's consuming 1 tiles. It's consuming, I think we have to say that this is checking for 3 or more and incrementing from by 3. So if I'm checking again, yep. So I think this is working. So we get 6 tiles each time. So this is consuming the amount of tiles in the dungeon. And we actually have something quite easy to do to make sure when we created the function that says how many corridors to end tile to create, I talked about how I did not want that amount of tiles, of extra tiles to create to be decremented for the tile amount. And now I think I want it to be, I want them to be connected. I want the tile amount to control everything. So I'll say that when we reset the layout, we actually say that the number of tiles spawned is equal to the number of corridors to end tile. And what it is going to do, this is going to make sure that if we specify 1 corridors to end tile, it's going to create 1 less tile spawned. But actually, we are not going to do it that way. We're going to say 0 because we're using that number to calculate the amount of steps to start, and we don't want to mess around with that number. So we're just going to go back to our generate layout function, calculate layout function, generate tile layout function, and we're going to compare that amount to the number of tile amount minus the number of corridors to end tile amount. And this is going to make sure we do not add too many tiles. So if I'm creating something like, if I'm saying I want 3 corridors to end tile, this is going to break the code, I think, and we might need to create an error. If that breaks the code, I'm going to create a new video for fixing the bug. So let's just check if that works. I want 3 corridors to end tile. If I'm hitting play, it's not working. Why is it not working? So I'm just going to also say I want the end tile to end to the north. And if I do that, it's working, but it's creating 1 more tile than expected. We have 7 tiles instead of 6. But I think that's what I want. I mean, it's not perfect, but for this video, it's going to be good, and we're going to go with that, I think. Except if we found out it creates bug elsewhere. But for now, I think we're good. So it's going to wrap this video up. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.